Aloha, welcome back to the Anxiety Coaches Podcast. I'm your host and coach, Gina Ryan, and I'm so happy to be with you again today as we consider the many ways to bring your mind and body back to its natural peace and calm. Welcome back. If you're tuning in today, you're in for the second part of my fabulous conversation with John Assaraf. If you missed part one, I highly recommend listening to that before diving into this episode. It's packed with incredible insights. Let's go to part two. John, I want to ask you before we get too far gone with that. So what do we do with that we've built this up? We've got this belief system. It may not be true. Most of it probably is not, but we believe it. Now, where does the neuroscience come in and all the work that you've done? What point do we have that awakening? Is that through awareness? Where do we get that first little burst of, I might be able to do something different, even though I feel all this right now?
Yeah. So the intersection of neuroscience is disempowering or empowering beliefs will create, right, our awareness of reality. Yeah. But it will also create what we focus on. And it'll also create our self-talk, and it will also create our emotions, and it will also create and reinforce our stories, and we behave in alignment with our beliefs and stories. That's kind of like part one. So let's ask ourselves a question. Is it possible for me to change a belief or create a new belief that's more empowering? And the answer is, well, if our brain can make connections and those connections can be reinforced, then how do I do that? And here's the good news. There's a body of work called neuroplasticity. And all that means is the brain's ability to rewire itself. So people have heard maybe, somebody who's had a traumatic brain injury or have been partially paralyzed because of an accident of some kind, their brain will rewire and it'll actually allow them to do the things with another part of the brain that this other part of the brain was using before. That's the brilliance of neuroplasticity. So the first thing that we say, okay, we all have beliefs. Some are good, some are challenging, some are constructive and build me up, some tear me down, but they're only a pattern in my brain. And here's the question. Is that belief helping you achieve the life you want? Is it helping you, achieve your love goals, your health goals, your physical health goals, your mental goals, your emotional goals? Is it helping you? Yes or no? This one is, this one is, this one is, this one isn't, this one isn't, this one isn't. Great. Write down a belief you have that isn't serving you, isn't helping your life. Just write it down. Here's my belief. And here's a small little exercise, or what I call is an inner size.
Inner size. I love that.
Let's change our brain's focus and let's write that same thing, but slightly differently. In the past, I used to believe blank, blank, and blank.
Yeah.
And now I'm choosing to believe. Change that into a powerful, empowering, constructive belief. And now I'm choosing to believe, and this is helping me achieve what I want, which is bam, bam, bam.
Okay.
So we go from this disempowering belief. Now we're going to write out a new belief, right? We're going to write it out first. Mm-hmm. And we're going to say, this is helping me now achieve this. I used to believe this, so we're not discounting what I used to believe. We're creating a bridge. Right. In our brain from what I'm choosing to use this new language pattern. As soon as we say in the past, our brain, which is very, very smart, says, oh, okay, in the past you used to believe that, and now you're choosing to believe this, which is going to help you achieve that, which is what you want. Now, if you say that, if you record that on your mobile phone, if you videotape yourself and you listen to it and watch it and feel what it would be like to have this new belief one time, don't even do it.
Right.
All right. So here's what I'd like to have everybody commit to 10 times a day for the next 10 days. So create one or two beliefs, record them on your mobile phone. All right. And hear it repeat it, feel it, and then here's just one last thing. Hear it, feel it, repeat it, and then take one small action step to behave in a way that'll make this new belief more real.
Yeah.
So now we're going to activate reading it, hearing it, feeling it, behaving in a way that aligns with it. And here's what happens. Whatever we repeat, our brain automates.
Okay.
Whatever we repeat, our brain automates. So consistency compounds.
Yeah.
If I consistently feel anxious, think about, oh, I'm so anxious. He makes me anxious. She makes me anxious. That makes me anxious. I'm always so anxious. Oh my God, I hate being anxious. It's terrible. And I need this, I need that. And you feel this consistent cortisol stress of anxiousness. Most people don't know that, but they're actually making the emotional reaction or response center of the brain, the amygdala, they're making it bigger. So you are making that, think of it as a muscle. You're making your anxious muscle stronger.
Yes, exactly.
Like, why would you want to make your anxious muscle stronger? And feeling action is an effect, right? So we'll come back to that. But first, I want to start creating a new empowering belief system. And I want to start focusing on my self-talk, because every word, every sentence I say, if you think about it, as I'm speaking right now, electrical activity is firing in my brain, right? Our brain is an electrical magnetic organism. So it's firing, these electrical activities, which is now releasing neurochemicals.
Yes.
So am I releasing the feel-good love neurochemicals called oxytocin, right? Which moms and babies, bonding, share. What about serotonin, right? The feel-good neurochemicals. What about dopamine, the reward neurochemical? I'm talking positively to myself. I'm actually feeling positive because I'm choosing to. Way to go. Dopamine's being released. And by the way, when we do that, any of those types of things, we're activating a part of the brain called the nucleus accumbens, which is the reward center of the brain. And when we do that, we now give a signal to this amygdala that I'm choosing to be positive, to feel good, to have a positive expectation. I'm choosing to. And our brain's paying attention. And it's going, okay, you did that for today. Okay, great. But if you do it tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day, you do it for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you deliberately choose a state of being. You deliberately choose the way you speak to yourself because somebody important's listening. You deliberately feel the way you want to feel, and you override the other patterns that are normal for you and your default. Now who's in control? Your old self and your familiar self, the part of you that expects you to be anxious and stressed and worried and ruminate on the negative. Like, is that what you want to reinforce, or do you want to stop that in its tracks and change tracks and reinforce that? So neuroplasticity says you can deliberately and consciously evolve yourself now.
Yes.
And if we start doing that, and we know that repetition is the mother of reinforcing patterns. Reinforcing patterns within a period of time, we go from explicit hard work, right? Willpower, persistence to do it, into a implicit automatic pattern that then overrides the old pattern. Now it builds that.
Yes. I want people to really hear that, because that change, that overriding of the old pattern takes time and repetition. And like you said, commitment.
Commitment.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're either going to commit to more of what you have and it's going to get worse. It doesn't stay the same. Nothing stays the same. So you either, create or disintegrate. So are the patterns that you're reinforcing empowering you, positive, feel good, and you want more of that? Or are they disempowering, don't feel great, and you don't want more of that? Because we get whatever it is that we want more of or don't want more of when we are committed, we can make the change.
Yeah.
So here's something that might serve the audience. According to some of the latest research, it takes between 66 days and a year, okay, to create and reinforce a new pattern, which will then override an old pattern.
Yeah.
Here's what I tell all of my students. Would you be willing to invest, not pay the price of, invest 15 minutes a day to train your brain so that you can have it work for you and help you be the person you want to be, feel the things you want to feel, stop the things you don't want? Would you be willing to invest 15 minutes a day? And here's my just warning. If you're not, then what about 10 minutes? If you're not 10 minutes, what about starting with 5 minutes? But for 100 days, you're going to remain consistent to an empowering, constructive shift. So even if I can get you to say, John, I'll do it for 1 minute a day, but no more than that. I'll say, good, I'll take it. I like to start people off with 15, but if you could do 1 minute a day for 100 days, here's what I can promise you. And again, I prefer you to start with 15, but I'll give you a range. I want you to reduce what you're willing to commit to until you say to yourself, okay, that I can do.
I can do. Okay.
As soon as I can get you to say, okay, that I can do, that I will do, then the commitment to 100 days does this. When you do something, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days, your brain says, okay, I'm motivated to do this. This isn't that much. And we do reduce it to the ridiculously small. And but then what happens after 7 days, you're doing this, your brain says, well, 1 minute's not a lot of time. 5 minutes is not a lot of time. Let me add a minute. So all good behaviors reinforce and accelerate other good behaviors.
Yes.
And all disempowering negative ones reinforce and accelerate negative ones.
That's important for everybody to hear. Say that again, John.
So all good behaviors, like a good thought pattern, a good emotional, deliberately feeling happy, just deliberately feeling happy. And I'm going to share a story with you about my mother in just a moment.
Okay.
So all good behaviors reinforce more good behaviors, and then they help you build and get momentum that way. And then all bad behaviors lead to more of that and help you accelerate those. I'll share a story with you about my mother before she died. She was 87 when she transitioned, but around 80, I had gone to visit her. My mother was born in Romania. She left Romania when she was 12 years old and took her 8-year-old sister when the Russians were invading Romania. And they went to Cyprus to live in a refugee camp for 3 years.
Wow.
And she was traumatized. I believe she was traumatized. Let me just put it that way.
Yes.
And it affected her whole life. And then she met my father on a kibbutz, and they had a great fling for a year. She got pregnant. They got married, had 2 more kids, but for 40 years were miserably married. But she didn't want to leave because she had children, and she believed in, you made a commitment for life, you raise a family, even though they should have gotten divorced probably after year 3. But that means I wouldn't be here. Anyway, she was manic depressive for a year. She would go into massive depressions for 2, 3, 4, 5 years at a time.
Wow.
She was on medicine to go to sleep, medicine to wake up, medicine for the depression, all the medicines, 20 pills a day. And so when I'd go see her, it just progressively got worse. But at this one trip, I used to go to Montreal to see her where she lived. And she was in her chair. Her caregiver was there. She had her head down. She was feeling lethargic. She could hardly talk to me. And I go, hey, Mom, I just got in from Indiana, is where I lived at the time. And it's so good to see you. She goes, hi. I said, Mom. I'm like, come on, smile for me. No. Mom, come on. Almost, I hadn't seen her in like 3-4 months. I used to go every 90 days. And anyway, first day was just, sit with her, hold her hand, watch TV. Second or third day, I couldn't take it anymore. I said, hey, Mom, will you do me a favor? What? I said, could you just take your fingers and open your fingers 10 times? Open, close, open, close, open, close. No. Mom, come on, just do one hand. No. God, you
Yeah.
won't even do one hand. No. She was getting angry now because I was trying to get her
Yeah.
to do something. She hadn't done anything in years and years and years. I said, Mom, do you love me? She goes, of course I do. I said, will you do me just one favor? Move one finger, and just like curl one finger, like point, and like ask me to come towards you, like point one. She was hastily looking at me angry. She was fine. And she's like, moved one finger. I said, Mom,
Yeah.
just one more finger. The finger next to it is sad now because you moved that finger, but not the other. But she's getting mad at me, Gina, and she moved the second finger. I said, now, Mom, you have three fingers on your hand that are getting mad at you because you won't move them. So I'm going to make the story short. But she moved the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one. Guess what I said? Hey,
The
Mom,
other hand.
your other hand. You can't just do one hand and not the other. She's getting angry, and she moves one finger, two, three, four, five. I said, great. Will you just move your legs? No. And that was the end for one day.
Okay.
Second day, I'm back. Hugs, kisses, a little bit more cordial today. And we did the same five fingers on the left hand, five fingers on the right hand. And on the second day, I was able to get her to move her thighs up and down, and move her feet up and down. I was there for 2 weeks. On the day I left, my flight was at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I went to see her in the morning.
Yeah.
I took her for a walk in the hall with her
Oh my
walker,
gosh.
a walk in the hall. So we made enough progress.
Oh,
She had a one-bedroom apartment, right? Kitchen, dining room, living room, whatever, and a bedroom. And so I had her walking one time down the hall.
yep.
And we instructed her caregiver, what to do each day, the feet, the hands, and this and that.
Yep.
Within 30 days, my mother was in the gym
Oh my gosh.
in a retirement home. And you know what? She's the one who asked to be taken down there to get on the recumbent bike.
She made the connection.
She
Yeah.
made the connection because she moved. It made her, she was angry at first, then she did it, and then it just activated well, I just did that. And she activated that nucleus accumbens, the dopamine, the reward system in the
Yes.
brain. And
Yes.
she felt good. She got rewarded by me and the caregiver. And I told my brother and my sister, and they gave her praise and rewarded her. So she wanted to do a little bit more. The day before she died of COVID, or not the day before she was diagnosed with COVID, was FaceTiming me at 87 years young.
Oh.
Okay. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? I'm just downstairs on the bike. I miss you. Full recovery. No more depression. No more anxiousness. No more stress. No more worry.
Yeah.
The next day, she was diagnosed with COVID. 5 days later, she had died. But the moral of the story, it doesn't matter if you're manic, depressed, bipolar, which you are. It doesn't matter how stressed out you are, how anxious you are. If you become committed to a shift, we know how to get from where you are to where you want to be. But it requires you taking a little step towards that and say, enough is enough. Today, I'm going to learn how. And it might be challenging at first, but we're going to make the challenge so small that you can do it.
Yeah.
We're gonna, just do micro steps, regardless of where you are. For some people, it might be a minute. For some people, it might be 3 minutes. For some people, it might be 5 minutes. Some people, it might be 15 minutes. So we start with what is easy for you to do, but it's challenging a little bit. And then we allow the momentum to help you.
Yeah.
But you have to make a commitment that today I stop. I stop the disempowering self-talk. I stop being the victim. I stop, traumatizing. I stop catastrophizing. I stop thinking about the past and what he or she or they did to me. I stop ruminating negatively. I stop the blame. I stop the shame. I stop the guilt. I stop the justification.
Yeah.
And I'm going to just change. And I'm going to just do a little bit at a time just so I can feel better, be better. And when we're talking about being anxious, the question is, what is triggering you to be anxious?
Yeah.
What have you reinforced over and over and over again
Right.
It's automatic now. And again, I want to make sure that the people do whatever I'm asking them to think about. No judgment, no
Of
blame,
course.
no
No.
shame, no guilt.
Yeah, we've all been there.
It's just
Yeah.
awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness. Yeah, I'm thinking negatively a lot. Yeah, I'm deflecting. I'm blaming. I don't. I'm traumatized. Whatever. That's okay. We
Yeah.
start with where you are. We
Yeah.
validate that it's okay, and then we say, now, what's one little step I can take to just like not have this control me anymore?
My conversation with John is just going so well. We've explored a lot so far, and there is so much more still to uncover. But we're going to pause here and wrap up part 2. But don't go anywhere, because in part 3, the final part, we're diving even deeper. John will continue to share practical strategies, break through mental blocks, the science of reprogramming the limiting beliefs, and how to take action today toward the life you truly want. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it, and I'll see you in part 3. I'll be back in a few more days with another podcast. Until then, be well and aloha.